Today, my first port of call was the palace before coming over to Awka. I will tell the story another day. Time does not permit me to go into my relationship with the Obi of Onitsha. And the immediate past chairman of Ekiti State Council of Traditional Rulers, the Alawe Filawe Ekiti, Oba Adebanji Alabi, Afuntade the First. Our mother is here, Professor Nnamdi Azikiwe, and today really belongs to her and her family. The Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Esimone, is also on stage, and we're very delighted to be here in your beautiful university. Global. This Global exploits, traverses the entire length and breadth of Nigeria. You may not know that. I can tell you of her exploits in Ekiti, but I won't go into those details. And of course, my own Egbon Ojeligbo, Senator Ben Ndiobi, the benefactor who instituted this very important lecture series, and his lovely wife, the President General of Ohaneze Ndigbo, my Oga and teacher, who is also ably represented by Dr. Ambassador Oke Muche, who is the Secretary General of the Ohaneze Ndigbo. The former Deputy Governor of Ekiti State is here, and I really want to pay particular respect to Sovio Abiodun Aluko, who also happens to be a council member of this great university. The great Zik is gone, but his legacy lives on. I want to especially thank Ojeligbo, Senator Ben Ndiobi, for keeping the faith as a relentless Zikist, a man of prodigious intellect and a cerebral politician of a special hue. It is no surprise that he has kept the lamp of intellectualizing Zik's memory aglow in a generation that is inherently cynical about intellectualism. I would also like to pay tribute to those who have mounted this venerable podium before me, and I acknowledge the invaluable contributions they have made to the development of our country and humanity as a whole. I find myself privileged to share this podium with such great names as former President of Ghana, late President John Jerry Rawlings, the former President of Tanzania, Benjamin Mkapa, former President of Sierra Leone, Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, former Kenyan Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, our own former Vice President here, Atiku Abubakar, Nobel Laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief Emeka Anyauku, distinguished academics, Professor Asisi Asobi, and a host of other distinguished personalities who have spoken on the Zik lecture series in the last decade. On such shoulders, shoulders of giants. Accepting the invitation as this year's guest lecturer was intimidating but not difficult at all, given what the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe has meant to and continues to represent for all of us in Africa and in Nigeria particularly. 26 years after his transition to eternity on 11th May 1996 at the ripe age of 92, the indelible legacy which he left during over 7 decades of active and inimitable service to humanity, Africa, and our beloved Nigeria continues to provide us with a source of inspiration and a fountain of wisdom on which to draw, especially in troubled times. It is therefore appropriate from the outset to salute the memory of this great nationalist, frontline hero of our independence, founding father, statesman, Pan-Africanist, community leader, and humanist. In his time, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe scored many firsts that can only be recalled with awe and admiration. He was among the pioneering university-educated Africans who sojourned to the United States in their quest for knowledge and self-improvement. He was also a pioneering sportsman, public intellectual, journalist, newspaper proprietor, with at least 12 daily titles in his stable at one point in time, including the popular West African Pilot. Owner of a Pan-Nigerian athletic club and a prolific author. Served as the first chief minister, premier of the Eastern region, first indigenous governor general of our country, first president and head of state after we became a republic in 1963, and the first Nigerian to be named to the Privy Council of the United Kingdom. A truly versatile person who built himself up through hard work, a single-mindedness of purpose, an uncommon audacity, and a commitment to the freedom and unity of the African world, even in the face of personal adversity. There are many lessons for all of us in his rich life story. Unsurprisingly, no conversation about the propagation of the Pan-African ideal, the struggle for decolonization of the African continent, and the shaping of the political evolution of post-colonial Africa can be credible or complete without a fulsome and robust acknowledgement of the contributions of Dr. Benjamin Nnamdi Azikiwe. As a towering figure in the global Pan-African movement, Azikiwe broke bread at various times with other icons of the quest for a wholesale continental rebirth and the speedy restoration of the dignity of Black persons all over the world, such as W.E.B. Du Bois, C.L.R. James, Kwame Nkrumah, and George Padmore, to cite only a few. From an early stage through his writings, he invested himself single-mindedly in thinking through the ways in which the continent could be reinvented as a dignified home for all persons of African descent. His 1937 book, entitled Renascent Africa, remains a classic in the Pan-African pantheon. And as an indefatigable fighter for the right of all colonized Africans to self-determination and independence, he effortlessly found common cause with other key figures of the African anti-colonial movement, such as Albert Macaulay, whose right-hand associate and successor he subsequently became, Ahmed Bembela, Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta, Hastings Kamuzu Banda, Kenneth Kaunda, the Magai brothers of Sierra Leone, and Ahmed Sekou Touré, among others. Within the Nigerian context, and building on the foundation laid by Herbert Macaulay, he forged various bonds of collaboration across the Niger with leading Nigerian nationalist politicians such as Obafemi Awolowo, Alvan Ikoku, Aminu Kano, Amadu Bello, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Ernest Ekoli, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, Michael Umodu, Zana Buka Dipcharima, Mokogu Okoye, and Gambo Sawaba, among many, many others. As a towering figure of the Nigerian nationalist movement, it has been argued with considerable justification that no one could have been crowned by destiny to be more quintessentially Nigerian than Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. with its ancestry right in the heart of Igbo land in the east, an umbilical cord buried deep in the soil of Zungeru in the north, and professional career nurtured in Yoruba land in the west. Zik was the complete, all-rounded Nigerian who spoke the three major languages in the country fluently, and more than any of his contemporaries, was very easily at home in all parts of the country, including the different places in which he sojourned as a child, student, young professional, and frontline politician. Many have a potentiality to be great. Azikiwe had the genius to translate that potentiality into a reality that has outlived him. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have gone to some length to paint a picture of Dr. Azikiwe just as a gentle reminder to us all that the example of the colossus of a person we're gathered here today to celebrate tells us that despite all the odds, Nigeria has and continues to produce giants whose remarkable deeds leave indelible marks in the sands of time for us to harvest and profit from. What set Zik and some of his contemporaries apart from others was not that they were perfect people, but the fact that they were perfectly wedded to their forward-looking ideas about the place of the African and indeed the Nigerian in the world. In this regard, Zik believed in the power of knowledge and ideas as an important pathway to achieving the African Renaissance and for restoring the dignity of global Africa. No matter how old an individual may be, Zik once said, no matter if he is young or old, if he thinks in accordance with the times, he is immortal. Dr. Azikiwe's immortality is based on the enduring power of his pragmatic thoughts and ideas, which remain relevant to our continuing experience as Africans, regardless of ethnic origin, religion, or region. The overarching theme of this combined 9th and 10th lecture series is security, governance, and nation building. It's a timely subject for us to reflect upon collectively, given the myriad of intertwining security and governance challenges we are all having to deal with in Nigeria, and indeed in many other places around the world. I cannot help but wonder if the great Zik were to be alive today, what he would have to say to some of the many challenges that face us as a nation. What would have been Zik's idea of nation building amidst the centrifugal forces emerging from almost all parts of the country to challenge the foundations of our nationhood as a united Nigeria? It seems to me that it will be fair to say, as Zik would have done, that national security and development are dependent on a resolution of the national question and the associated demands of nation and state building. History and comparative experience teach us that where a broad consensus has been built on the fundamental issues underpinning the national question, security and development becomes much easier to attain and to sustain. One of the most critical factors for the success of any nation is the achievement of a broad and enduring consensus amongst the elite drawn from the various walks of life on a fundamental set of questions that are germane to the establishment and nurturing of a stable foundation for the pursuit of security and development. Yet, on the other hand, this is not a charge to be left to political elites only, as doing so is bound to create resentment and feelings of exclusion among lay citizens. A nation's theory of development can only derive from the consensus that has been forged on key national questions, especially those questions related to the issues of identity, religion, participation, justice, and the overall management of diversity. How these are mobilized to define the value of citizenship and to set the parameters for inclusion or exclusion within the nation's socioeconomic and political space. As such, there can be no successful nation building in our current climate where a wide section of our citizens are apathetic to the very idea of the nation state and perceive the political institutions that govern them as enemies. For many, nation building is no more than an age-old idealistic rhetoric that has no bearing on lived realities. My argument has always been, though, that we cannot speak of national development without first resolving the key issues of nation building. I make bold, therefore, to say that the security challenges that are confronting us in all their various dimensions and ramifications, and all the issues of governance instability that we are confronted with are directly consequential upon our inability to settle some fundamental questions of nationhood and find points of convergence in a plural society like ours, where the very existence of the nation itself is easily brought to question at the slightest provocation. It should serve as a warning to us that the very foundation upon which the nation is standing is either weakening or has collapsed. In either case, measures aimed at reinforcing that foundation must be adopted speedily, settling our foundational challenges, and doing so frontally is a sine qua non for the successful forging of consensus that is needed for moving the country forward with a unity of purpose, a common vision of our greatness, shared values of solidarity, and a sense of equity and justice. Yet, the challenges of nation building are not exclusive to Nigeria or African states as is often ascribed. Erstwhile model nation states in the West are falling short of their cohesive ideals and grappling with the challenges of national divisiveness. In the case of Nigeria, some have argued with some merit, I must admit, that we cannot build Nigeria into a truly united nation until we somehow boil down all our ethnic and other differences into one homogeneous melting pot. For the nation to live, the tribe must die, was the clarion call. This was the exact thinking that underpinned the Westphalian model of the modern nation state in Europe. But history has shown, however, that difference is a permanent feature of the human condition, and it does not preclude the nurturing of bonds that unite. Moreover, human beings have natural affinities to their ethnic and linguistic groups that are too resilient to be simply swept aside artificially. None of us chose to be Nigerians, but having found ourselves in this geographic space called Nigeria, we're left with two real alternatives. One is to make it work for everyone. The other is to break it up and let everyone return to their ethnic enclaves. The latter option has never proven to be better or more sustainable than the former. Speaking in the context of Nigeria's three regions in the early years of our independence, Dr. Azikiwe noted as follows, and I quote, "Each of our three regions is vastly different in many respects, but each has this in common, that despite variety of languages and customs or difference in climate, all form part of one country, which has existed as a political and social entity for 50 years at the time he was writing. That is why we believe that the political union of Nigeria is destined to be perpetual and indestructible." It was a message to say that despite differences of various types, we are not confronted with cleavages that are insurmountable as we invest in the building of enduring parameters of nationhood. No political union is created perfect, and none enjoys perfection as a permanent condition. What is encouraging, and which Nnamdi Azikiwe understood and preached always, is that through visionary leadership, doors are open for us to invest in forging a more perfect union from generation to generation. Like most of his contemporaries, Zik acknowledged our diversities in ethnicity, religion, tongues, and custom, but he regarded Nigeria as the motherland. I believe that in choosing to describe Nigeria as a motherland, he was being deliberate. No one gets to choose their mothers or change their mothers. It is a relationship that is perpetual and indestructible. In the context of the many historical events that have unfolded in the country over the years since independence, some have been tempted, in the thick of zero-sum partisanship, to suggest that perhaps Zik had too much faith in the project Nigeria, or allowed himself to be blinded to the many dysfunctions that have racked the nation-building process. In my considered opinion, both suggestions are wrong and unhelpful, insofar as they betray a fundamental understanding of the roots of his nationalism, which set great store by unity in the march to greatness. As a key architect in the making of contemporary Nigeria, it would have been too much to expect that Azikiwe will also easily embrace a path that will lead to its dismemberment. To do so would have amounted to a wholesale self-repudiation. The greatest test, which he faced, came at the onset of the Nigerian Civil War, and the polarization which required all key actors to pitch their tents with one side or the other in the conflict. It had to be one of the most difficult moments in his entire political life, watching the potential disintegration of Nigeria while also seeking to understand the fullness of the grievances in eastern Nigeria that unfold the drive towards the creation of Biafra. One of the enduring controversies of the Nigerian Civil War was the actual role that Dr. Azikiwe played or did not play in that conflict. It was the real-life equivalent of being caught between a rock and a hard place. Treading with the utmost caution, he did stick out his neck to make a plea for the abandonment by the conflicting parties of the resort to violence and a resumption of dialogue. Perhaps there is something in this approach that contemporary gladiators in the ongoing challenges to Nigerian nationhood may want to take as food for thought. Like all people imbued with a profound intellect, Azikiwe's favored strategy for tackling differences was encapsulated by the French word parlement, or parliament in English, which means discussions, meetings, or negotiations until a compromise can be forged. In the fight for Nigeria's independence, Zik insisted, and I quote him, "We will not shed blood. We will not force the British to shoot at us." And he advised all of his fellow anti-colonial nationalists around Africa to adopt the same strategy. In embracing the philosophy of non-violence, Zik was undoubtedly influenced by his experience with the civil rights movement in the United States and the example of Mahatma Gandhi. But apart from a deep commitment to humanism and the sanctity of human life, Zik's non-violence was also born out of pragmatism. He did not think there was any wisdom in taking to the battlefield against an enemy that is more powerful than you. However, armed with the heavy artillery of your intellect and the morality and justness of your cause, you can make an enemy retreat. Dialogue, according to Zik, is more compelling and can oftentimes be even more resounding than the staccato of the Kalashnikov. Ziks nonviolence also had nothing to do with the surrender mentality, as some have suggested. Thus, even as he made efforts to stop the Nigerian civil war from becoming an inevitability and escalating, he also made it clear that justice, fairness, and equity in the administration of the Commonwealth were fundamental preconditions for peace and unity to be won and sustained. He called for an end to the war hostilities and the reintegration of the Biafrans back into Nigeria, provided, he said, and I quote, that Nigeria will continue to ensure the safety of persons and properties of Biafrans in one united country where all its citizens will be treated as equals without any discrimination, and where there will be opportunities for all citizens and inhabitants. End of quote. History has taught us that wars, especially civil wars, could be one of how a country self-introspects and finds its true identity and a pathway to transformation. As with the American Civil War, which historians have suggested was also America's war of socioeconomic transformation, there have been suggestions that out of the wreckage of the Civil War, Nigeria might successfully reconstruct itself and move on to the path of structural change. All things considered, amidst the optimism unleashed under the banner of the 3 R's of post-war reconstruction, reconciliation, and reintegration, few will disagree that we are yet to achieve the high hopes that flourished amidst the oil boom of the 1970s, that we were well on the way to fulfilling our destiny to greatness. With persistent challenges of state and nation building and a myriad of developmental discontent, the rise of separatist agitations in recent years and the rhetoric of such agitation indicates that there are still people in this country, indeed many of them, who feel that Nigeria is not working for them, who still feel marginalized in the scheme of things, who frame this discontent in ethnic, religious, or regional terms, and who believe that the only solution is for them to be allowed to go and form their own country. It is important to note that complaints about marginalization are not exclusively or always solely directed at the federal center. Within the regions and states that have made up the Nigerian Federation at various times since 1960, people who feel they are not getting a fair deal or equality of opportunities also complain of marginalization. The standard solution that has been pursued has been to clamor for more states in the expectation that the interest of those who feel marginalized will be better served if they have a state of their own to themselves. Going by the persistent agitation for the creation of more states, it is easy to assume that discontent at the subnational level is real, persistent, and widespread. Since the 1946 Richards Constitution that created the 3 regions of the Nigerian Federation, agitations for the creation of more regions had been rife, particularly among the minority ethnic groups. The subsequent creation of states in 1967, 76, 87, 91, and 96 has not stemmed the vociferous demand for more states. While the 2005 National Political Reform Conference set up by the Obasanjo administration concluded that the creation of new states was not feasible, the 2014 National Conference by the Jonathan administration recommended the creation of 18 new additional states to make Nigeria into a federation of 54 states. The infinite political market for the creation of an ever-increasing number of states in the Nigerian federal system is an indicator of the fact that the successive rounds of state creation, which we have had to date, have not produced the El Dorado that successive generations of agitators thought the exercise would produce. The more states are created, the more new perceptions of marginalizations have multiplied. it cannot be viable to steer the country into an over-fragmentation that cancels out the effectiveness of the administration of the common good. Another argument by those who are still clamoring for the creation of more states is that doing so will bring government closer to a particular people who are otherwise marginalized under a current arrangement. Even if this were true, it is debatable whether mere geographical proximity can deliver good governance and improve the quality of lives of the people without a corresponding commitment to development generally. Shared geographical space does not automatically translate into shared resources and equitable and fair distribution. Solidarity can at times be situational, and if there is nothing more than agitation for states without deeper commitments to what constitutes shared values between state and citizens, the center may not hold. There is no such thing as a homogeneous society, not even a homogeneous family. The ties that bind are the mutually shared values that accommodate differences. In the absence of this, conflict is almost always inevitable. Perhaps of greater concern is the growing evidence that many of our states are fast becoming economically unviable. This situation will get worse as the amount that will be available for allocation from the center dwindles in tandem with the decline in oil revenues. It is therefore reasonable to argue that the solution to the problem of lack of equity or marginalization within a state is not the creation of more states, which may end up only creating new arenas of conflict. Even if it were possible to ensure that only people of the same ethnic group or religion occupy a state, this will still not stop the complaint of marginalization, as some people would always be better off than others. I am from one of the most homogeneous states in Nigeria, and I can confirm to you that there is still agitation of marginalization. The argument against the agitation for the creation of more states can also be extended to those who think that the best solution to the problem of real and or perceived marginalization in Nigeria is outright secession from the country. While it is easy to understand the sentiment that drives the kind of extreme positions adopted by groups like the MASOB or IPOB or Oduor National Movement, one will still have to question whether this is indeed the best solution in the best interest of the people on whose behalf they have claimed to pursue the struggle. In attempting a response, it may be pertinent for us to remind ourselves of the experiences of countries that have faced the same kinds of challenges to unity and nationhood in recent times. I would like us to pause and look at the experience of these countries. Amidst massive global goodwill, South Sudan declared independence from Sudan in 2011, following an agreement signed in 2005 to end what was regarded as Africa's longest civil war. According to South Sudan sources, the war was fought to resist Islamization and Arabization by the North and to preserve their ethnic identity as Africans, animists, and Christians. The discovery of rich deposits of crude oil in the South also added fuel to the conflict and reinforced agitations for separation, especially after the death in a near crash of the historic leader of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, John Garang. Those who had expected independence to bring the long overdue peace to the Sudan, North and South, were sorely disappointed when within 2 years of winning the freedom to self-determination, a civil war broke out within South Sudan itself, leading to the death of over 400,000 people and the displacement of an estimated 4 million more. In the period since then, the young country has alternated between conflict and uneasy peace, complete with a UN peacekeeping mission. In the meantime, in what was left of Sudan after the separation of South Sudan and its accession to independence, various mini-conflicts underwritten by an assortment of armed groups challenging the authority in Khartoum have been the order of the day. Darfur in Sudan became both an embodiment and symbol of the tragedy of war that befell the country, even as South Sudan was also locked in a violent struggle for power driven by interethnic distrust and an unreconstructed system of political monopoly. Since the ousting of President Omar al-Bashir in 2019, the North itself had been trapped in an unhappy transitional arrangement that has culminated in a second flexing by the military of its muscle in the domestic political process. So those who are sold on the logic of secession may counter this analogy by outlining the differences between South Sudan and southeast of Nigeria and how the outcome of independence will be different in both cases. It is true that while the southeast of Nigeria is relatively homogeneous in language, culture, and religion, South Sudan has about 60 different ethnic groups. However, it is important to remember that when they were united in the fight against Khartoum for independence, the South Sudanese put up a united, practically homogeneous front. The breakdown in their unity only burst into the open as independence loomed. No matter how homogeneous it may appear, no society is ever bereft of differences and cleavages that require to be managed on an ongoing basis through engaged and visionary leadership. If the simple fact of apparent ethno-cultural homogeneity was an absolute guarantee for stability and progress, we may never have had a cycle of genocides in Burundi and Rwanda, or a broken Somalia on our hands. It is therefore safe to state that while diversity does not guarantee a slide into war, homogeneity does not guarantee a sustained peace either. In fact, as the award-winning author Yuval Harari has argued, it is by our common conflicts and dilemmas that we define our identity, not by our common traits. Therefore, he observes, the people we fight most often are our own family members. Identity is defined by conflict and dilemmas more than by agreement. And as we say in Yoruba land, it is the person that you lie in the same bed with that you bump into. We must therefore learn to manage our differences and do so in order to achieve the goal of a better and a more perfect union. If separation and secession are not as easy or simple as their proponents imagine, and given that they do not provide any guarantees that a better future can be secured through them, the demands for a national restructuring would seem to me to be worth keeping on the table for deeper consideration. In doing so, we have a duty to frame and contextualize the quest for restructuring as part of a normal process of regular and periodic adjustment and recalibration of governance arrangements to changing times and context. This will represent a departure from the negative and adversarial connotations which proponents and opponents have attributed to the idea of restructuring, turning it into another source of rancor, recrimination, and division. However, at the end, when all the dust around the issue settles, we find that we are all confronted with the same fundamental question. How do we make Nigeria work best for every Nigerian? Like the great Ziks posited, how do we build a nation where the safety of every citizen is assured and where there will be equal opportunities for all, regardless of the language they speak, the place they come from, or how they worship God? Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe envisioned a country that would be perpetual and indestructible on account of its ability to remain adaptive and responsive to the shifting challenges and its commitments to meet the aspirations of every generation of Nigerians. The indestructibility of Nigeria, as envisaged by Ziks, is indeed best assured when the majority of Nigerians are emotionally connected to Nigeria because of what Nigeria is able to do for them. In essence, The legitimacy of the nation state is not in making demands of patriotism, but in the quality of life it provides for its citizens towards building mutual trust and the common good. The question, therefore, is this: is Nigeria, as currently structured, capable of delivering the full benefits of citizenship to every Nigerian? The answer to this is obvious. Certainly, the growing army of our frustrated and disenchanted youth do not think so. One might even argue that our generation of young people are actively engaged in alternative spaces of micro-nation building projects of their own in the absence of a perceived nurturing state. We see this in the ways common identities and aspirational notions of what Nigeria could be in new media spaces, entertainment, and other forms of identity-making projects youth have taken up and successfully too. Yet, when the Nigerian story is told, we very often focus on a disproportionate amount of attention on what does not work about our union. And perhaps that in itself may not be a bad thing, if rather than being weaponized to undermine our collective will, it is framed as a clarion call to do more and do better and with greater purpose. It is important also not to forget that there exist important glues that bind us together as Nigerians, regardless of our differences, and these glues also deserve to be reinforced. I am convinced that the problems that we're called upon to address and redress in building a better country are not beyond our grasp to tackle. With good faith and a generous dose of goodwill, we can, as we have done on various occasions in our history, summon that Nigerian genius to build on the things we have successfully erected together. We must strive to do so in the spirit of the kinds of noble values and principles that inflame the spirit of a youthful Azikiwe to enroll at Lincoln University in a quest to discover the innate goodness in the human species with a view to building a better and freer world. We must never abandon the spirit of inquiry and discovery that led Azikiwe to join other nationalists to seek to create a nation state founded on the best ideals of citizenship anchored on freedom and justice. We, the people of Nigeria, must truly mean that our considered aspirations are fed into the document that will form the fundamental organizing principle of our nationhood. The opportunities are there. The question of how to develop our democratic system that meets the expectations of our people and restores people's trust in government, how to bring ethical principles, empathy, and efficiency into the heart of government and leadership at all levels, how to harness our demographic advantage and translate our youth population into an asset rather than a time bomb, how to build a society that is governed by the rule of law, how to build an electoral system that is reliable and efficient, or how to build a trusted, dependable, and efficient judiciary. All these are at the very heart of what I see as the broad package of restructuring that we need to work towards. It is a package around which we can forge a broad consensus. And I believe that we don't need to go through another war or tear down our country to arrive at such a consensus. Of course, the cynics amongst us would like to ask me that if I'm so confident that we can resolve these issues through dialogue or any other form of parliament, how come such previous efforts have failed to lead to the desired outcomes? My answer will be that the national transformation that we seek can only happen through the transformation of the individual, and the individual's transformation in relation to fellow citizens and in relation to the nation itself. People create systems and not the other way around. It is only by the transformation of the individual that we can hope to do that which is necessary for the transformation of our country. While the notion of social contract is central in exploring the relationship between the state and citizens, As the rabbi and moral philosopher Jeffrey Sachs reminds us, it is inadequate in dealing with our current challenges simply because social contract creates a state, social covenant creates a society. Social contract is about power and how it is to be handled within a political framework. Social covenant is about how people live together despite their differences. Social contract is about government. Social covenant is about coexistence. Social contract is about laws and their enforcement. Social covenant is about the values we share. Social contract is about the use of potentially coercive force. Social covenant is about moral commitments, the values we share and the ideals that inspire us to work together for the sake of the common good. For me, this encapsulates the idea of nation building at its best. A contract must be founded on cohesion, a covenant to stay true to the agreed contract. All parties must agree to avoid contestations, achieving a sense of common identity, strong institutions, and shared values as a nation is a process of building trust and finding unity in difference. This is how we build a sort of national relationship that is not an exploitative social contract, but a moral commitment that combines individual and state obligations. Permit me to conclude with this admonition. Regardless of how long it takes, and whatever we do in between, war or violence is never an option. Believe me, I should know. I hold a doctorate degree in war studies. Therefore, I feel adequately qualified to speak about the futility of war and violence. There is absolutely nothing heroic about dying foolishly for a cause for which dialogue and negotiation can provide pathways to workable solutions. Whatever is worth fighting for is worth staying alive for. I can very much hear this refrain flowing from the life experience and legacy of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. And if the great Zik were alive today, this is precisely what he will be telling this august gathering. Let us hearken to his words of wisdom. Thank you for listening.
Another round of applause. So, okay, may we be seated? This has been wonderful. I don't know, the way we have received it has shown that His Excellency has done remarkably well. Well, I will, please, we are still in the program. Let us be able to separate the euphoria of enjoying his lecture and outright noise. His Excellency, sir, since we have learned that you have a degree, a doctoral in war studies, anybody that has anything to do with war in Igbo land is called Ochiaga. Ochiaga means the general in battle. So you're general in the battle of war studies. Once again, you're welcome. Please, another round of applause for him. Ochiaga Motaga. Please. Hello, hello. Stop sharing that down there. Okay. Okay, let us, I've been redirected. Please stop sharing what is disturbing us. We can do that later. Let us proceed to cut the cake. My Vice Chancellor, sir, Chairman of the occasion, His Excellency, cutting of the cake. I crave indulgence to ask that we all calm down gently Chancellor, sir. Vice Chancellor, sir. And His Excellency, Chairman, please. PC, you might want to.
Okay. Go down. Okay, we are going to cut this cake after the spelling of our great Zik of Africa. What's our stage? Just second. I will get it. You go.
Is
We're waiting for you. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to stretch. Kabiesi should come. We are going to cut this cake after the spelling of the name of the great Zik. We'll make it short. We'll just spell Z-I-K and then we'll cut the cake. Okay? Ready? Go. 1, 2. Z-I-K. Zik. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's resume our positions. Please, let's settle down. I indulge on the members of the head table to come back to their respective seats. And Abogidi will take over now to make a few remarks.
Abogidi nani kenali. Abogidi ni adi. Ewo bi obo nature abogidi o. Yemweli no mwelebe. Abogidi nani kenali. Uli mam Kennedy Kora. Ikora nani kenali. Awachazilikeki onye ọbụla nabazia. Nemesi bekwoliva nemenu.
Please, we have not ended. May we resume our seats, please? May we retire to our seats, please? Let's retire to our seats, please. My distinguished members of the head table, I ask that we come back to our seats so that we continue. Abogidi is waiting to talk to us.
Urukana Chuku. Urukana Chuku.
ask that we have finished the cake cutting, and I plead that we come.
Biko ka anyị nwere oche mekwute ka wasiti o. N'ụfọdụ obele ka anyị dozie ndandado. Valentine ọkigbo na anyị keneli. Ezi ọhịa gamo. Abụ ogidi na anyị na-ekene n'ugo. Obi of Onitsha.
Biko nụ ka anyị nọdụ naanị na agbogidi ya gwakwana anyị okwu kịta. Biko nụ ka anyị nọdụ anị.
N'ogwo bụ nkwanye o.
Biko nụ ka anyị nọdụ anị ndị na-ese foto ọ bụrụ na ụnụ pụọ ama esesi foto mana ụnụ na-ese a na-akwụghalị. Please, let's settle down. Biko nụ. Biko. Okay, please let us, with a round of applause, welcome Obi of Onitsha, Igwe Nnemeka Alfred Achebe. Please, a round of applause. Abogidi, he wants to make a few remarks. Please, thank you. Biko nụ si n'ọlan.
Biko I'm making on your now. Have we lost control? Master of ceremonies. Have we lost control? Because the vice president of the university, our distinguished lecturer, who's just finished his job and left us, Ojelibo, the benefactor, Wanaku, Emeritus Professor Mrs. Azikiwe, na nwa nwoke ọkụdịle nwa Wakwe Azikiwe. The chairman of the occasion, the governor of Ebonyi State, who is very well represented by your own son, an alumnus, the deputy governor. Bukona will stand on established protocol. Okumeme Sogonogo. And I want to touch on 2 points. One is the one that the governor or the keynote speaker has dwelt extensively on today. The question of nation building and the need for peace based on equity, fairness, justice, so as to create opportunities for development. The last several months, particularly in Anambra State, have been very, very volatile in a very unprecedented manner. But also it was the same in the Southeast. The Southeast zone became the last of all the 6 zones in Nigeria to be engulfed in violence. And our experience in the last 3 to 4 years have been unparalleled in our history in the country since the end of the Civil War. We're asking ourselves why and where do we go from there? And I think our keynote speaker today has eloquently addressed that subject. If only we would listen, if only ndị na-achị anyị would listen, if only ndị a na-achị achị would listen, so that together we can build a nation that's not only great, but it's also fair, equitable, that gives particular attention to our youth. Youths comprise over 60% of our population. Today and tomorrow belongs to them, not to people like me who are already had our own time and so on. So I will not go too much on that, but let's touch base a bit on our election, which I just completed. Anambra was boiling, and we lost a few people who don't deserve to die. And then suddenly we had a peaceful election, an orderly election, an election that was seen as transparent. It didn't work by magic. And let us not believe that Chukufula was more than Ojuefundi, that he gave us that opportunity. It was a result of very hard work under the table to create that opportunity in Nigeria. It has happened. But then we don't take it for granted. We don't go to bed saying, thank God peace has come back, because we don't know whether peace has come back or not. The unknown gunmen, who are they? We still don't know who the unknown gunmen are. If you don't know who they are, you cannot live with them, and they can erupt tomorrow. So, Buko, there's a lot of work to be done. And if you follow the news, you'll have seen the messages from the representatives of bishops and archbishops of the Southeast, those from the Southeast Traditional Council, and the combined messages between of the Traditional Council and religious leaders, and even messages that were also issued and signed by most of the contestants to the recent election. I think the contestants themselves, at least a couple of them have been with us here today, know, again, the work that has been done. So, there's a lot of work to be done to build peace and be part of building peace in Nigeria as a prerequisite for development based on justice, based on equity, based on fairness. Now, the only other topic I would like to touch upon today, which is the reason why we are here today, is Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Owele Osowa Anya N'Onitsha, above all the other things he has done in Africa, Nigeria, and all of that. Here is a man who was born of middle-class background, had a very sound education, worked very, very hard. As in America, on a chacha boss to earn a living to support himself. He has to wash buses in a bus station and all that. And to wash a bus, you have to move it out from the garage to wash it. He couldn't drive, so he made a deal with his fellow bus washer. That's the guy will drive all the buses out and he will wash all the buses, which is a very hard way to make a living. One day his colleague didn't show up and he couldn't drive the buses out and he lost his job. But he still came back a great man, had all his education, and became our shining light. After Ochisolo Wanine, Chia Nigeria, he came back to Onitsha as a member of the Obi in Council, the Traditional Council. Initially, the title of Uziani, which was the second-class cadre, then became Owele, which is the first-class cadre. And just like he's left volumes of knowledge in writing for posterity, in governance, in politics, he's also left the same amount of material for us on Onitsha tradition, Onitsha culture, etc., etc. So you can imagine what a man Nnamdi Azikiwe was. From global politics, Nigeria governance, to traditional governance. Bakonya, the number of years he grew up in Onitsha was not too much. That he has a mind that can pick up everything, analyze, and give you a result so much. So there's no way, there's no how much you can do to honor Nnamdi Azikiwe, but also to study Nnamdi Azikiwe, to learn who he was, to learn how God endowed him, to learn from what is left behind us. Therefore, if I met Tata, the 10th anniversary, the laying of the foundation stone of the Ziks Center at UNIZIK is a major step towards creating a basis to study Nnamdi Azikiwe. But before that, Enugu State government has also taken the gauntlets. And I understand, and reliably so, that the center, the Ziks Center, is almost ready to go into function in Enugu. SSG, Professor Toya, that we cannot thank him enough for that step that he has taken. Because until that, for almost 26 years, there's a Ziks mausoleum in Onitsha. It's been lying there. Every government at the federal, and I'm sorry to say, my SSG has gone away, but you'll get the message. Anambra State government and the federal government have been dilly-dallying for 26 years. The last time there was attention there was the last federal election, where the federal government came and then did some palliative work. But nothing has happened. They set up a presidential committee that will make it functional under the Federal Ministry of Works. How can Federal Ministry of Works manage the Center for Studies in Ministry of Works, Federal Ministry of Works is in charge of Ziks mausoleum. How can they manage it? It is supposed to be under the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. That's where it ought to be. So, to tell the federal government and Anambra State government to do what is necessary to do. Are you going for that you should hand over the institution to Onitsha community? I will run it. We'll manage it and run it. But so today we have beginning, and there's a promise that it will be completed before the VC finishes its term of office, of a Ziks Center in UNIZIK. And we have a Ziks Center in Enugu, thanks to Enugu State government. And with those two, we'll force the federal government and Anambra State government to get going with the mausoleum. Where Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Because they call Abogi the Aka.
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, we want to get into award presentation now. We want to do it very fast. So please, the chair should please get ready. the Zik lecture, the Zik Leadership Excellence Award is going to be presented to High Chief Senator Dr. Ben D.O.B. C.O.N. Please, round of applause for him. So please, may we invite him.
Thank you very much. Ziks Leadership Excellence Award presented to High Chief Senator Ben D.O.B. C.O.N. in recognition of your relentless exposure of the philosophy and ideals of the great Zik of Africa. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations. Please, another round of applause for him. And his beautiful wife here present. Thank you and congratulations. Congratulations. The second award is going to His Excellency Engineer Dave Umahi, the Executive Governor of Ebonyi State.
Thank you. Excellence in Leadership Award presented to His Excellency Engineer Dave Umahi, Executive Governor of Ebonyi State. Recognition of your noble leadership and stellar accomplishments in Ebonyi State and the Southeast Nigeria. Congratulations, Excellency.
Ijele.
Of Enugu State.
Ewa.
Thank you. Public Leadership Award presented to His Excellency Right Honorable Fayemi Ugwuanyi, Executive Governor of Enugu State, in recognition of your outstanding leadership and stellar and dedicated public service in Enugu State. Congratulations, His Excellency.
Thank you very much. The Excellence in Leadership Award is going to His Excellency John Kayode Fayemi, Executive Governor of Ekiti State. Round of applause for him, please. Thank you. The former Deputy Governor of Ekiti State is here.
In recognition of your stellar accomplishments in leadership in Ekiti State and Nigeria. Congratulations, His Excellency.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, you have double portion because you are also here as the guest speaker. We are going to unveil this wonderful plaque.
Congratulations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to recognize in a special way our great media friend with the Zik Media Excellence Award is going to be presented to Chief Raymond Lopesi, the chairman, the Communication PLC.
Thank you. Zik Media Excellence Award presented to Chief Raymond Dokpesi, Chairman, the Communications PLC, in recognition of your unwavering support to Zik's lecture series. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Professor Lilia with a salute to.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor. A great benefactor of Zik lecture series here present. Our guests from various parts of the country and beyond. We want to respectfully invite the former First Lady of this great country, the wife of the great Zik of Africa, Professor Uche Azikiwe, to address this great gathering. Your Excellency, ma'am.
The chairman of this wonderful occasion, the governor of Ebonyi State, my state of origin, the benefactor of this Zik lecture series, the benefactor of Zik lecture series, Ojeni Igbo, distinguished Senator Ben Ndiobi, who has become part and parcel of the Azikiwe family. Abogidi, Ago, please permit me to stand on established protocol because of time. I'm so sorry I came late. You know how our roads are from Nsukka to Awka. What could have taken me 1 hour or just 1 hour, 50 minutes, took me more than 2 hours. That's why I came late. But I'm happy everything was going on fine when I came in. I want to thank the Vice Chancellor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. I pray that every Vice Chancellor will work according to the spirit of Nnamdi Azikiwe to keep this university, to make it the best in Nigeria. I don't know how to start thanking Chief Ben Obi, because it's not easy to run an establishment like the lecture series in a big university like Unizik. Chief Ben Obi, the source will never get dry. On behalf of my family, I don't know what to say. I'm Wuli Julanyobi, because it means that that name, Nnamdi Azikiwe, will not die. So I want to say thank you to Obi, thank you to the university, thank you to every one of you that have contributed to the success of this lecture series in one way or the other. I want to thank the governor of our state, Anambra State, who has made today work-free day on the Anambra. And as we have been pleading, Abogidi has been pleading, let the Southeast see it as a work-free day. And maybe the federal government will one day make it a public holiday. And it will gladden our hearts. Bikono, we are very happy. And we appreciate everything each and every one of you has done to make this a rich success. Dalono, thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Biko kusiel ni aki cannot easy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we are doing very well. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome and recognize the presence of our Chief Sandu Bisingobu Obukoka. We salute you. No. At the same time, Chief Obi Kachi, we welcome you. Oweloka is also here. We recognize you. So many people are around. Ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly invite the chair of the organizing committee of this great event, a professor of mass communication and a media guru, Professor Vivian Ifeoma Dunu.
Thank you very much. Because we don't have any more time, I will beg to stand on existing protocol. I am not going to say much, but I'm going to express my profound gratitude first to God for making this possible. We were thinking it was going to be a Herculean task. How are we going to achieve what we achieved today? But because God was on our side and the committed determination of all the committee members, we were able to make this a success. So I am saying on behalf of the Ziks Lecture Series Committee, a big thank you to everybody that came here. A big thank you to our Vice Chancellor for his support. A big thank you to Onyenna Ogam Ojelibo for being there always for us. And to my advisor, Professor A.U. Nonyalo, I will never, ever fail to say thank you. Thank you and thank you again. Thank you, Frank Collins. Thank you, my dean. And thank you to everybody that graced this occasion. Thank you. I hope to see you next year, 2022, November. Thank you very much.
We also thank the University Orator, Professor Chike Okoye. We thank you so much. Please, just one announcement before we take the closing prayer. All our guests will be moving to the council chamber immediately after this. All our guests, while all staff will move to Uzoka Center for some entertainment. All the staff of the university and faculty, please move to the Uzoka Center for entertainment. Please, may I invite Professor Nkechi Nwokoye to please come up and lead us in the closing prayer. Professor Nwokoye.
Let's be on our feet as we appreciate the Most High God for what he has done today. In Jesus' name we pray. Onye naanị ya bụ Chukwu. Onye a na-asọpụrụ n'ọnọdụ niile. Onye maara maka ọbịbịa anyị n'ụwa. Mara maka nwa oru gị nwoke bụ Ọkammụta Nnamdi Azikiwe. Ọba mara gị mere o ji wee bịa ụwa. Amara gị bara ya ụba, o wee lụọ ọrụ niile ọ lụrụ n'oge ndụ ya. Amara gị bakwara ya onwe anyị bụ ndị dị ndụ ụba n'ụbọchị taa ime emume ncheta nwa oru gị nwoke a. Ndị Igbo kwuru okwu sị na onye asị ya jide ka o ji, ya mara na ihe o ji dị mma. Ọ bụ n'ihi nwa oru gị nwoke a kpara agwa ọma, rụpụta ọlụ dị mma, mere na anyị na-echeta ya n'ụbọchị taa. Anyị ekele gị n'ihe ị mere n'ụbọchị taa, tụmadị ndị duru si ebe dị iche iche wee duta na mahadum a. Emume nke afọ a ga-asị na ọ dị ka ọkaibe, mana anyị maara gị nwa bụ Chukwu na-eme ihe ọma karịa. A wee na-ekele gị na nke ị mere eme. Na-arịọkwa gị dịka anyị na-ala n'oge a, ka ị kuru onye ọbụla n'obe aka gị abụọ. Ekwela ka ọ dị onye ọbụla nke ga-akpọbe ụkwụ ya. Tụrụ anyị na anaba anyị dị iche iche. Amara gị bakwara anyị ụba ka anyị bụrụ ezigbo mmadụ mee ezigbo ihe. Ka ọ ga-abụ oge anyị ga-alụsị ọlụ anyị n'ụwa etu esi echeta nwanne anyị nwoke Nnamdi Azikiwe, ka echetakwa anyị etu ahụ n'aha Jizọs. Nọnyere onye ọbụla n'ime anyị, karịsịa mee ka anyị mara gị n'ozuzu oke. Nyere anyị aka n'ije anyị n'ụwa, ka anyị gbasịa ọsọ ma gbata ihe a na-agbata n'ọsọ. nara ekele Chukwu gị onye ihe ya dị anyị ezi mma n'ihi na ihe i mere ụbọchị taa dị anyị mma ka a sọpụrụ gị n'ime ihe niile anyị kpekwere n'ịzawa anyị n'aha Jesus Christ eze anyị. Thank you.
Please, we take the anthems, please, before we go. Ziks song.
Unity, fountain of knowledge, we are you. Our unity, yeah, we live, it's a thing that we like. But unity,
Thank you very much and congratulations. Please, we have to stay wherever we are to allow our guests to move first.